Hello, everybody. Hi, guys. Thanks for being here today. This is episode 4 of The Full-Time Investor. I am Mandy Brenham, aka the Joint Venture Queen, aka a busy mom investor, girl in general. Just got back from a great weekend at a local investor summit. Learned lots. Actually, not necessarily learned lots of new stuff, but I was reminded about some high-level information. And so the conversation there, this is a perfect transition into our show today with a great friend, good friend, love you to pieces, Kel. Kelly Caldwell. Larry, if you're able to add Kelly in. Hey, Kel, how are you doing?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good. So we are talking today, so in this room of 500 investors, it is amazing the amount of people that are like, ooh, I want to be a full-time investor. I want to be a full-time investor. And you're like, yeah, right. And so you are going through this right now. And I'm going to value every piece of information that you're going to share today because I want the listeners to really feel you. I want them to hear your words and come out of the clouds and come back down to reality as to what it's really like to transition from a job or a career into full-time real estate investing.
Sure.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us what it is that you do and what you're transitioning out of?
Sure. So right now, or for the last almost 6 years, I've been running a full-time home daycare just out of my basement. We started this when my son was born. And so on average, I'm pulling in 50 hours a week, just taking care of little people ages 0 to 4. So they keep me really, really busy. And then, of course, I've got my own kids that are at home. And so have been investing in real estate since 2012, just part-time. And now we are making the transition. We are closing the daycare as of June the 30th. And I'm going to be a full-time real estate investor.
And does that scare you?
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's scary, but it's a good scary. It's an exciting scary. It's where I wanted to be. It's where I had my goal set. So I'm excited to be there.
How long do you think you have been considering this transition? Tell me a little bit about what what a typical day in your life is and when you could see the light of one tunnel ending and another tunnel starting.
Yeah. A typical day for me. So the last, I want to say year, I've been actively joint venturing with partners, and we've been acquiring a number of properties. And so, prior to the last year and a half, we've just been investing a little bit here and there on our own. And it wasn't until a year and a half ago we started doing our joint ventures. And that's when things started to really get busy. And so my day went from, just dealing with little people on a day-to-day basis. And then, in the evenings, catching up with my real estate and balancing my books and maybe paying some bills for properties. And it just kind of exploded. So now with all of the joint venturing, a typical day for me probably starts around 6 o'clock in the morning. And so I get up and I go over my list of what I need to do. And I get up and I get my own son ready and get him ready for school. And at 7:30 in the morning, I've got kids in my house. And every single day, I take them out to a different activity, whether that be playgroup or gymnastics or library. Every day it's something different. And as the months have gone on, I've noticed that I'm taking these kids to their various activities. And while I'm watching them, at gymnastics doing these flips and running around and playing catch, all of a sudden I'm also taking calls from joint venture partners and making sure that this property is closing and that the mortgage is going to be okay and that this is balanced and that's balanced. And it's just all of these balls are in the air. And so if one property wasn't enough, we started accumulating more and more as the time went on. And now it's just at a point where it's tipped. And so, there's a lot of variables in that. But you have to pick one. So I'm either going to be really good at being a full-time daycare provider, or I'm going to be really good at being a real estate investor. But I can't kind of, half-ass it one way or another. So we decided to make that transition, and that's where we're
Ah,
at.
I heard a very, very valuable word there. Who's we? How did you make the decision? Who did you talk to be able to gain this confidence, or to be able to talk about all the emotions that you're truly having in this? Who's we?
So there's a lot of people. The we isn't just one other person for sure. Definitely, you have been a huge support over the last almost 2 years now. It's been
Wow.
so always been calling you and making sure that that I'm on the right track. And I can always count on you to call my BS when I'm saying it. But definitely, I would say my husband has been a huge factor in it. A huge supporter. He's been right there, hands on in some of the renovation projects, not some, most of the renovation projects, and has been there to catch every time. And now I think he's seen that we've grown the business to a point where we've got our full-time crew in place, we've got contractors that we can rely on, we've got our bookkeepers, we've got our accountants, and so now he's seeing all of that, and he's like, okay, now we're okay to do this.
Okay.
All the pieces are in place, so it's okay to move forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about family and friends? Have you told anybody else that you're doing this? And if you have, what have been their reactions, or how have you helped with their reactions? What have you done to reassure people?
Yeah, well, so I think the first person obviously who knew was my husband, and so that was a decision that we had to make together. The next people that I told were actually, it wasn't any of my friends or my family, it was actually my daycare parents who I told. So before I went out and started announcing to the public that I was going to be a full-time real estate investor, I gave my daycare families my letter of resignation. And in fact, their reaction was astounding. I felt so supported by them. All of them basically said, we're really sad to see you go, but we can also see very clearly that your passion is in real estate, and that you're doing really good things with this, and we support you, and we're very proud of you and very happy for you. So, and I mean, that's 10 people right there in one day. So that was like a good boost of confidence. It was an emotional boost of confidence for sure, but it was good. And then from there, it was friends and family and that sort of thing. And to be honest, aside from my small, really close circle of influence, my top 5 people who are in my little real estate circle, my friends really are still trying to figure out what it is that I even do. So, yeah, like my core 5 were really happy for me, really proud of me, and really, really excited to see me make that transition. The rest of my friends and family were like, okay, well, if it makes you happy, then okay.
Okay. I had a gentleman now, he has transitioned to work within our business, and his heart is made of gold. But when I left my job, I remember him saying, "You're making $28 an hour. Like, what are you doing? You have one of the best jobs that there is." And it's hard to reassure them, and then you're questioning yourself again, and you're like, but it's a good job, but it's not a great financial, it's not leading me to financial freedom.
Yeah, and I think that was another big thing too with the daycare, is that the daycare it's really great. I love the families, I love the kids, and it served a purpose. I was able to stay home with my own kids and raise them that way, and it did create a really good, stable income.
Yep.
But it's not something that's going to create wealth over time by any stretch. So, yeah.
So then, again, maybe we don't need to say numbers here, but when you looked at what you were making,
Mm-hmm.
and your first, what do you want to say, the first month, did you kind of look at maybe 6 months? Where, most people go, well, I need to replace my income with cash flow. Okay. And they anticipate that their income, whether that be $80,000 or $100,000 a year, is going to be identically replaced with cash flow. So it's almost like an expectation they're setting for themselves. It's really not the way that it is. So how did you look at the financial step and kind of say, hey, okay, and what were some of your factors that you looked at financially?
Yeah, so this conversation was not a short conversation that was had between my husband and I. In fact, it's gone on for probably 6 months.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Your lead time thinking about this has been coming for a while.
Yeah, so it's not something that we did, haphazardly or just on a whim or anything like that. I think the other thing too that we weren't really taking into account 6 months ago that we were able to take into account now is that while we are looking for a certain number, let's just say for round figures, let's just say $2,000. If I take into account and I look at the income that I'm making from my properties, not only from a cash flow perspective, but also from a property management perspective, it's there.
Right.
It's there. It's just a matter of trusting the process and knowing that it's okay and knowing that, it's okay. We're okay.
And you say $2,000. I like that. Let's just use that round number. But do you kind of sometimes think, but the hours that it takes to make 2,000 passively from cash flow and some management fees, does that equate to 40 hours a week or times 4 weeks in a month?
It depends on what's going on. So we've always got, if I wasn't doing any renovation projects, probably not. But the fact remains is that we are doing a lot of conversions of single family homes into duplexes. So it's a lot of work up front. So a lot of hands-on, a lot of management of the trades, and making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. But when you actually sit down and look at it, if I were to break down the income per week, I'm actually making exponentially more in real estate than I am in the daycare, based on the number of hours that I put in and what I'm getting out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's, what about the consistency? How have you thought about the consistency of the income from a daycare that would have been weekly or however your parents paid you every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, compared to the consistency, or we hope that, right, after a property stabilizes? How have you kind of thought about managing the timelines of your paychecks?
So for us personally, we know that from the end of June, I don't have to worry about anything really. Like we don't even have to start tapping into our own properties until probably September, October. And then at that point, the cash flow property management fees from the properties are going to subsidize my income.
Yep.
But having said that, I'm freeing up 50 hours a week from the daycare.
Yes.
50. And those 50 hours a week are going to be spent, searching for amazing properties and trying to build relationships with joint venture partners and putting all of those things together. So, in fact, I'm going to be making more than what I'm currently making by lot.
So then so you're in this moment where, not even the middle of June yet. So you've got 15 days before the end of the month. So you got 15 days. What do you have in your pipeline? How much harder are you working now to be able to prove your success or, tell yourself that, you know what, I said I would do it. I knew I would do it. And I just need to be able to do this many things. Have you kind of thought about how much harder or what's going to fill your day when you're quote retired in real estate investing?
I actually was thinking about this morning. I wonder if I'm going to be a little bit confused about what I'm going to do if I only have to work 40 hours a week. So So we have a property that's closing on the 18th of June, and then we have two more properties that are under contract that are closing the second week in July. So those are set and ready to go. Those are definitely going to fill my time. I'm tenanting 2 units at the beginning of July. Actually, I'm tenanting those units the day after I quote unquote retire.
Okay.
Uh, so
Yeah.
there's definitely not a shortage of things to keep me busy over the summer months.
Okay.
But in addition to that, I'm going to do some things that I haven't done in a really long time. My husband and I are going on a holiday at the end of July, and we've never done that without our kids. And so this transition into real estate is allowing me to do that. It's allowing me to take the time off and spend time with him and spend time with my son and go see my family. And just so, yeah, I can work remotely.
Yep.
I'm not trapped in my daycare anymore. And
Yep.
so I can still continue to do those things. But
Yep.
yeah, my goal for 2019 was 10 projects.
Okay.
Whether or not I'm going to get 10, I hope so.
Well, that leads me directly into my next question. So I think some people think that you have to have, a kingdom before you can transition out. And, and other people, I perceive they think they might be able to have one or two, and that's going to make them this, lavish full-time investor. So I'm just kind of curious if you could share with everybody what you currently hold in your portfolio and what's in the pipeline. So about your goal there.
Yeah. So what I currently hold is 2 single-family homes in Hamilton. I own 2 single-family homes in Collingwood that I converted into duplex. So two residences, 4 doors. We just completed a flip in Barrie. And we're just about to close on another proper single-family home in Collingwood that's going to be converted into a duplex. So for the purposes of round figures, what I hold now, 2, 4, 5 properties. 5 properties, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 doors.
8 doors. And what's in the pipeline? Because I know that there's nothing lacking about what's after your next closing. So
yeah, so right now we're working on our financing for the 2 properties that close in July. And then after that, we're just going to continue to pound the concrete and try and find more amazing deals and continue to, build our relationships and see if we can put our partners with the appropriate projects and keep on going, just full steam ahead.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of personal development stuff, which is really, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
So we're going to Tony Robbins in October, as you know.
How important, I know, I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Tony in a little bit. How important do you think that now that you are self-motivated and the harder you work, the more money that you make, how much do you think personal development is actually going to come into play for you to be able to continue to grow as a full-time investor?
Oh, huge. I would say it's more than 50% of it. Like I would even venture to say it's like 80% of the game. I have spent a lot of time in the last year and a half. I don't want to say eliminating people out of my life, but just kind of people that aren't in the right mindset, just kind of distancing myself and just saying, I love you, but I'm at a different phase in my life right now. And I really need to focus on me and my personal development and surround myself with other really high level investors and high achievers and goal setters and go-getters, and not people who are stuck in complacent, happy with their 9 to 5 and whatever. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. That's just, that's not where I'm at. So it's really definitely important to surround myself with positive people who support me in what I'm doing and are actively trying to help me achieve my goals.
Absolutely. So you've got Tony Robbins going on. What other kind of things do you do in a typical day? To be able to, what I always say, my term is work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So I know I love my real estate and I go and do real estate investing courses. I just described to you guys that the first one at the beginning, but there's still that work on yourself. So what are some of the things that you do to work harder on yourself?
Well, one of the things I'm always reading, last year, my goal was to read, a book a month. And I think I ended up with 18 books or something by the end of the year.
You just posted a picture about a book that you're reading. What is this picture, the book that caught your attention that you're reading right now?
Oh, Stefan Aarnio's new book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really great book so far. It makes me chuckle. I think that's his first book that's not real estate based. It's more
Okay.
opinion based. So it's a good opportunity for me to get inside a high level investor's head, right? It's more
Right.
than fact, it's opinions. So I
Yeah.
just kind of bought to see where his head is at and what his mindset is.
Interesting.
So yeah, I definitely try and read every day. And I mean, with everything that's going on in my life, sometimes it's only 1 or 2 pages, but still try and get that done.
Yeah.
Every time I get in the car, there's a new podcast that's on for sure. I'm a big podcast junkie. I think the last one I listened to was just yesterday. It was Tony Robbins, and he was interviewing the woman who invented Sirius Radio.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was just it's interesting to listen to other people's journeys and how they got to where they are and just hear that they struggled and that no matter how many times they got told no, they kept going. And so one of the things that this woman was saying was I needed to hear 99 no's because
Okay.
and every time I heard another no, I would count it because I knew that when I got to 100 somebody was going to say yes.
Okay.
So that was good for me to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
You had quickly talked about some stress, some good stress and some bad stress. How
Yeah.
much stress can one handle, and how do you handle these different kinds of stress? And maybe describe what your idea of good stress is.
Well, for me, the whole transition is, I would say, good stress. My goal at the beginning of January was to be able to close my daycare, to be able to transition into full-time real estate investing. And so now I'm achieving that goal, which is amazing.
Amazing.
But it's really scary and it's really terrifying and there's all of these what ifs and I mean you can what if until the cows come home and you'll be up all night, but it's part of the process, right? And so just really embracing that, and of course with everything that I'm going through, I'm also taking my family through it.
Yeah.
Right, the highs and the lows and the questioning, but luckily I've got a really good family, so it hasn't been too awful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're obviously an action taker. Most people, many people, I don't want to say most, but, and I don't want to generalize it, except unfortunately, we have to generalize it for the general public, is that people go, oh, I see stress or a difficult situation, or, oh, that's not what it normally is. And they put up this wall, emergent, like Mel Robbins would say, emergency brake.
Yeah.
I can't go that way. I can't do that. There's too many outputs and inputs that aren't the normal way. So you're obviously an action taker. Do you perceive yourself as an action taker? And how have you continued to take action at these times of good stress, bad stress?
I think I don't know if I told you this story before. So when I was younger, obviously I spent a lot of time doing competitive gymnastics, and in the mornings on the weekends before we started any gymnastics, before we started any of our stretches, any of our warm up, anything, we actually had a sports psychologist come in, and we would have to lay down on the floor. There was a whole group of us, and we'd have to lay down, and the sports psychologist would take us through these visualization processes, and they would take you through, really making sure that you could feel what it felt like to be competing on the beam and smell the smells and hear, people walking around and, maybe see somebody's camera flash go off in the corner of your eye and all these different things. And one of the really cool exercises he took us through was this whole idea of being nervous. And everybody's really nervous before they go into anything big. And then he talked about what the differences in feeling are between nervousness and being excited. And so if you take those two things and you think about them, they pretty much have the same components. So, you might have an increased heart rate, you might have a dry mouth, your hands start to sweat, you question things, all these different things that go along with being nervous are the exact same things as being excited. It's just a matter of how you frame it mentally.
Yep.
So if I could say that I'm nervous or I could say that I'm excited, but I've chosen to frame it for myself that I'm excited.
Wow. I love how in this moment, this is Kelly, mature Kelly, making a decision to transition from one job to the next. You're married and you have a kid, and you're pulling on skills that you have had from the past. Everything that you need is within you, and we forget that sometimes. And I love that you just totally went back to something that was taught to you, and that is a tool that's going to be on your tool belt all of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
Through anything. And I hope people are able to recognize what tools are in their tool belt that they've had from previous life experiences that they're able to take with them to do times like this, transition times or stressful times or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Kel, you know what? I really thank you for being here today, because I feel that, again, like I kind of started off saying, that there's a myth out there that you're going to go from, your job that many people aren't happy in, and it's going to be this rainbows and butterflies. I'm an investor. Oh my gosh, you must just be making so much money. You just must be rolling in the dough.
No.
No. It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. It's good though. It's exciting.
It's exciting. Could be nerves, but it could be exciting.
Yeah.
So I really felt that, here I am calling this show The Full-Time Investor. And there's a lot of people that, again, would like to be on this side of the scales. And I'm really grateful that we were able to paint this picture, a true picture right now, June 2019, not 10 years ago when we transitioned, like right now. And I think it's really important also to know that there are still people able to transition into real estate. So no matter what the market does or changes, financing changes, stress rules change, you're still right now in the moment transitioning into real estate.
Yep, for sure.
So how can people find you? How can people connect with you, or see some of the stuff you're doing, or follow along on your journey into a full-time investor?
Yeah, so we do have a website or Facebook page, Instagram page. It's Elevated Wealth Creations. You can send me an email, kelly@elevatedwealthcreations.com. And you can follow along, see what we're doing, see some of our projects. I'm sure Mandy's in some of those pictures.
More of the ones on the social side.
Maybe, yeah.
Not the ones on the real estate, in the old yucky basements. I'll leave that for you and your partners to go into yucky basements, but
no problem.
Awesome, Kelly. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you got as much value out as this. Kelly and I have these conversations always, but you know what? It's just so good to connect with people who are doing what you're doing and transitioning in a way that you're transitioning. So thank you so much. This is The Full-Time Investor, Mandy Brenham. You can find me at mandybrenham.com, here on Facebook and Instagram as well. I'm known as a Joint Venture Queen. Talk to you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.